afternoon and happy Friday, everyone. Allie Corman, Ed Carson here with a look at the stock market today and how we finished up the week. Plus, we have a look at the week ahead for you and a couple of stocks that we want to check in on, Ed. And you're on mute. Speechless after strong gains today.
I can't believe it. I wasn't even on mute all week for you. CrowdStrike was one of the big winners of the week, along with a lot of security software stocks. We also want to take a look at Shopify and Idexx Labs, which are setting up nicely.
Okay, we will do that. But first, let's take a look at the NASDAQ on Thinkorswim from TD Ameritrade. So you can just clearly visually see what a strong market we've been in the last little bit over a week now, and capping off the week with a strong gain today. The NASDAQ up 1.2%. We have the S&P 500 up about 0.9%, the Dow up 0.7%, and the Russell 2000 up 2.9% today. So we will get to that here shortly. But Ed, this is very strong action that we're seeing.
Yeah, it was really an impressive week. NASDAQ and growth stocks led, but there was breadth to this rally, small caps, a lot of different sectors, ending near the highs of the week. We were all worried about Fed Chief Powell's speech, and he came out and said, we're going to taper, and the market just took off. I mean, it's like today. So there's a lot of great things. The NASDAQ isn't really extended from the 50-day line, so we don't have to worry about that. It wasn't a lot of volume in the last several days, but that's just sort of late summer, it feels like, more than anything else. So today was okay volume, and we might have had a higher volume the day before, but still, volume has been light. But that's about the only thing you can say about it. A lot of positive action.
Mm-hmm. And this year, we've been talking about how tricky of an environment it's been for growth investors. Are there maybe signs that now that tide is turning instead of going maybe one step forward, two steps back? Maybe now it seems like we're starting to go two steps forward and one step back. At least that's kind of how it was this week in terms of, where we saw the strength on which days. But I also think it really is important to be paying attention during the market pullbacks that we have, because that is an opportunity that you definitely don't want to be blind to. They don't always work out, but in this case, investors who were paying attention were able to take advantage.
Yeah, late last week was really important because it could have gotten worse. It was a nice test, and that provided some opportunities. That day, Friday, Monday, some real good buying opportunities. Not as many now, but that's okay. But on the other side, you can look at about a month or so ago, we had a number of days where we were rallying strongly. Looks like in early July. Nice move there, sort of a bounce probably from the 10-week line. And yeah, it looks like here we go. We're at new highs. And then we went sideways for a while. So, we'll just have to take it as it comes. Yeah, that day was a really strong week. May have been the strongest, these weeks may have been similar gains. And then we went sideways for a while. So, who knows what we'll do. That's, as you say, good to your point, to get in early. And then if we do go sideways, then we're in pretty good shape in any case, rather than maybe waiting till today to buy.
Mm-hmm. And looking at this weekly chart, it looks like we are positioned well in this uptrend. We don't know what next week will bring, but overall, the uptrend seems very strong.
That's right.
Okay, and now let's go on over to our MarketSmith charts and take a look there. So first, I am pulling up the NASDAQ here on MarketSmith, which we looked at. So finishing above that 15,000 mark. Now let's also look at the S&P 500 to see how it fared this week. Similar in that it last week came down near its 50-day line, reversed off of that level. So a strong week for the S&P. Same for the Dow as well, except it's not quite at highs yet. But IWM, the ETF tracking the Russell 2000, pretty important day today it was.
Yeah, because we had gotten above the 50-day line on Wednesday, but it was just nudging above. Today was a convincing move back above the 50-day line. Above that short-term level. So we're in the highest in a month. It's still lagging. You can look at the relative strength line down there. You can see how the Russell has lagged for a long time and only had a little bit of improvement this past week. But boy, if you can just get that to that really is a sign of market breadth improving to see that come back above that level. That was really positive to see.
And looking at FFTY, the IBD 50 ETF looks, which is a representation of just how choppy it has been for growth stocks since this spring for the bulk of this year, breaking out of a trend line this week, potentially significant.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and it also shows the breadth because the IBD 50 isn't just tech growth stocks. You'll find, I mean, it varies depending on what is going in. So there's a lot of things. It's a positive sign for growth and for leading stocks right now to see that kind of action after, a lot of chop for a while.
Okay. And now let's take a look at CrowdStrike, CRWD. I was typing too fast for MarketSmith, apparently, but a very strong week for CrowdStrike, gained 1.3% on Friday. And for the week, Ed, up about 19%. So this was very tricky because CrowdStrike did actually trigger a sell signal in recent weeks. But I guess it shows if you do get shaken out of a stock, that doesn't mean you can't buy it back.
Yeah, it was, it actually came all the way to touch the early entry or one of the early entries, I believe, for a moment, so it would have been hard to hold that even if you bought it early. But yeah, sometimes you get shaken out and you can buy it back. There was a lot of positive news. It came back above its 50-day line and 10-week line and kept on moving. That was on Tuesday, and Monday night, Palo Alto had great earnings, and CrowdStrike found out that it was going to join the NASDAQ 100 before Thursday's open, which obviously it did. So those things really got it going. The whole sector was flying this week. This was definitely one of the top groups of the week. It's ranked 14th, but it was definitely one of the biggest performers. A lot of stocks in that group had big weeks.
Yes, software, we're continuing to see those various industry groups moving up in the ranks. So it seems like Tuesday was the day to act here, Ed, and heavy volume really coming into this stock on that day. Unless I guess you wanted to get tricky and buy it when it was still below the 50-day, clearing those short-term highs. But at this point, we have earnings next week.
Yeah, and it's already sort of extended. Earnings are next week. I mean, if you bought it maybe on Tuesday, you might decide, that depends on how much of a cushion you have and where you bought it, if you want to hold it through earnings. But if you don't own it, you probably just want to wait for earnings and wait for it to set up again, and just see how it does, because that, the earnings report could be really great or it may not.
But action worth paying attention to. Same with Shopify, SHOP, gapping above its 50-day line earlier in the week on news related to TikTok, and gained 1% on Friday for the week. So taking a step back here, up 5.6% for the week after closing 3% below the 10-week line last week. So in a way, kind of similar action to CrowdStrike, although maybe with this one, not quite as definitive of a sell signal as CrowdStrike when it closed below the 10-week.
Yeah, there was the low from a few weeks earlier, so you could have held it. I mean, if you had bought it early, like if you had bought it maybe in the choppy area, you were probably down a fair, near the highs. So you might have wanted to get out at that point at various places. But in any case, it did bounce back. I mean, obviously the market, look, it's hard for any stock to do well when the market is slumping, and the market was sort of down for a few weeks. And luckily it came down there. On a daily chart, there is not only, you can look at it, it's the 50-day or the 10-week line, but it's back above the 50-day line. It broke that trend line. You could probably buy it now. It's back above the old buy point. Maybe you could also wait until to get above last week's high, like that Tuesday, and sort of buy there as sort of a early entry. And I'm sorry to make you go back and forth. I realized on a weekly, in a couple of hours, this should register as a flat base. And so that's sometimes when you do it, like sometimes we talk about it, like you have these sort of deep bases, and this wasn't the deepest base before, but it was deep, it was out there. Sometimes it's better to wait for a new base to form just above or to the side of it. And, we've got a flat base forming here on Shopify, and there's a lot of other stocks like that had these choppy action, and now we're having flat bases form.
And an early entry. We've been focusing so much, Ed, on early entries, even if you're getting in with a partial position and then adding to it as the stock breaks out. But Shopify flashing one of those early buy signals this week. And our stock of the day today, Idexx Laboratories, IDXX, some nice tight trading action right around that 10-week line.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, it had a nice run from its last breakout, just kept on going. This is a long-term leader, so it has great performance over time. It's one of those boring stocks that just makes you tons of money, which is, not such a bad thing. And yeah, it's look, that is a huge record of outperformance. I mean, really a strong run in the last several years, and really long term. It's come down to its 50-day line, so that's a great place to buy. A long-term leader, and it's got that trend line. You could buy it maybe off of today's high. If it got above today's high, would be a good place to get it. And it has a flat base after today, so you could start a position off of a 50-day bounce, and then if you wanted to add to it, you could, or just buy it off the 50-day alone.
Yeah, so kind of the trifecta there with the pullback, tight action, trend line, and working on a base. I guess four things there, and it's a long-term leader. We like focusing on buying these long-term leaders when they are close to the 50-day line, as you said. And we can't forget, even though we've been talking a lot about software and so many other leading groups, the medical sector as well is moving up in the rankings. And this group that Idexx belongs to, the systems equipment group, is ranked at 8 out of 197. So appears to have a lot of things going for it. Checks off a lot of the boxes.
And it's really nice. That's a good point. And the medical sector held up a lot better than a lot of sectors during the recent choppy action. Obviously, this one did well. I mean, it pulled back, but after a big run. And a lot of stocks did that. And it's just, having that diversification is always nice, and especially when it's a little bit more stable.
All right, Ed. Well, let's now talk about our battle plan for the week ahead. What do you think investors need to be focusing on now after the strong week that we had this week?
Yeah, and for one, you probably need to refresh your, watch list, because some of those stocks over the last week, they've cleared early entries or blown past. And so you need to be looking things for like Idexx or Shopify that are setting up again. And I think, you have to evaluate portfolio. I mean, one of the trickiest things in a rotation rally, it's funny, David Ryan on IBD Live on Thursday was talking about, hey, you almost look to find the stocks that haven't been doing well for a couple of weeks.
Right.
See, normally, if you have in a rally, you got leading stocks and you got laggards, you might say, well, this stock is okay, but I'm just going to sell it because it's a laggard. But if it's tricky in a winning rally, because it's a choppy rally, because it's like, well, maybe these stocks are just going to come on again. So that's one way, you decide, you have to really think, do I want to stick with it? Do I really believe in this stock, even though it's not really moving the past couple of weeks? Or do I say, I'm going to cut bait and, try to move to something else? And there isn't a right or wrong answer. Tricky rallies make it trickier. But that's, I think, something to do, is evaluate your portfolio and think about those laggards and maybe taking partial profits and big winners. There are some stocks that have flown up. You might want to think, well, maybe I want to just take partial gains to make sure I don't give those up if we have a big pullback on the other side.
Right. Now, the only time I would argue that holding on is the wrong answer is if you bought extended and you're down on that position more than 7 to 8%. You got to be using those loss cutting rules. I know you know that, Ed.
I do. Do I always follow them? Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't follow them. But there's also a difference between a laggard
and the 10-week line.
Yeah, and a 10-week line. There's a difference between a laggard and a loser. If your stock have losers that are down, a fair amount, you might say, I'm getting out of this. It's just not working for me. But if you got a stock that's up 5, 10%, but it hasn't gone anywhere in a few weeks, do you say, I want this hot stocks? Do you do that, or do you hold on to it? And that's a tricky thing in this market, because that might be, this is the moment when they're going to take off, or maybe they'll keep lagging. So that's going to be something I'm going to try to do this weekend, is take a look at my laggards and see, do I hold them or not?
Yes, I got to review that portfolio, keep that watch list fresh. And I would also add, rewatch or watch today's episode of IBD Live, where we were joined by Joe Fahmy, and Thursday's episode too. That was also great with David Ryan. So much great education that you can take with you beyond that morning live stream. As great as it is, of course, to be talking about actionable stocks in real time, which benefits all of us. It's more than that. It's those educational trading strategies, those concepts that you can take with you beyond the live stream. That's what's really going to help you and has helped me become a better trader.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. It was a great week of lessons, and definitely a lot of great people next week and in the coming weeks.
Yes, more to come. So make sure you tune in, investors.com/IBD live. We will see you there on Monday, and we hope you have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.